Where does democracy come from? That is a hard question because it's been a long, long road for democracy. Democracy is the idea that all people are created equal. If you think back to the history of Judaism, which I covered in another video, the idea of covenant has been around for a long time. And the idea is that God is in charge of the world. He gives you good things to the people, and the people in return serve God. There has been some form of this for almost all of history where there was someone in charge and people who were below them. For instance, in feudalism, there were lords, and the lords would give people land. As a result of giving the people lands to something called the vassal, the lords were the people in charge, and the vassals were the people who were supposed to protect and serve the lords. So in the same way in the Jewish tradition that God gives good things to the people in return for their service, the lords in feudalism give land to the vassals, but the vassals in turn have to protect the lords. This is similar to the way England was a long time ago when they used to have kings in the English kingdom. The king would give land to the people, in this case nobles, and in return the nobles would serve the king. This is how things went for a very, very, very long time. One such ruler who had a lot of power, by the way, was William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror is one of the only people in history to successfully invade Britain from the outside. He was a Norman leader. Another important person in the history of England was Henry II, who tried to change it so that some laws were common across all of England. Here's a picture of Henry II. These laws became known as common law. For instance, let's say there's a stop sign and the ticket is $50. But let's say in a different city the ticket is only $5. What Henry II tried to do in England a long time ago was to try and make all laws common. Try to make certain laws common throughout all of England. His son, however, John II, was a very oppressive leader who raised taxes. A group of angry nobles cornered him and forced him to sign a treaty known as the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was one of the first things in history where it limited the power of the king. So instead of the king being on top and the people being on the bottom, or God being on top and the people being on the bottom, the nobles tried to level with the king and tried to sort of take away some of his power. As a result of the Magna Carta, Parliament was formed so that the king could not make all the decisions by himself. He now had to ask the permission of Parliament. This was the beginning of a turning point in British history, because now the king did not hold sole power in the kingdom. The nobles could sometimes ask the king to do things for them instead of the king always holding all the power. And eventually this would lead to the beginnings of a democratic government.